everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor and today I'm going to be talking about use context hook in React. So use context hook in React is a hook that helps us to use context API in React. So context API is also something that helps us to manage global state or global data management in React application. So when you are developing a React application, you might end up having some data that you want them to be accessible from multiple components. So the easiest way to understand of achieving this is to use props. So as you can see, I have a very simple React application. I have an app component. I'm creating a constant here, and this constant is a name, like it's called user, and it contains the name of a person. And all I'm doing, I'm just creating this div. I'm displaying the parent component on the screen, and then after that, I'm rendering the child component. In this child component, I'm passing user as props. So if I go to the child component, as you can see, I am displaying the child component string on the screen, and then the user that I received as a prop, I'm just passing that down to another component as prop again. So this component, the grandchild, is actually the one component which needs to use this data. So this is bad. This is what's called props drawing. It's when you have to pass props multiple levels down into components. So React use context hook helps us to achieve the same functionalities without actually passing props. So what it does, it helps us to build a React application where we have some data which is accessible from all components that is wrapped inside its provider, and that data is accessible without passing it as props. So let me show you how we can do this. If you go to the UI, this is how it looks like. It's not there's nothing fancy. So I'm displaying parent component, child component, and then the grandchild component. Then I display the name of the person. So let's try to implement the same functionality without using the props. So I'm going to remove the props from here. I'm also going to remove them from here because all what we need is to have this user accessible globally so that we don't have to pass props down, so that we can use this user in this component without having to pass props. So how are we going to do that? So the first of all, we are going to create a context. So I'm going to create a new file. Just to create a context, you have to import a function from React which is called create context. So this is a function which helps us to create a context. So to create a context, you just say const, maybe user context. You can call this whatever you want. So this is equal to create context, and then you pass in null. So this is actually what we need to create a context. Now we created the context. What we want is to have this context the provider from this context accessible from all our application. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to export this to be able to use it from other files. I can even remove this file because I don't need it for now. I'm just going to import the context that I just created. Import user context. I'm sorry, user context from not components, from context. So this is a named default, so I named export, so I should put it in curly braces. And now in this app component, I imported this context because this is the component which defines the data that I want to share in my whole application. So what I can do is to make use of the provider component from this context, and having that provider provide this user in all application. So what I'm going to do, going to come here and say the user context dot provider. This is a component which have to wrap everything that needs to access this context. So I'm going to wrap my application inside this provider, and this provider component has a props called value. And this value, we can pass in a user like this. So by doing this, we now set this user globally inside anything that is nested inside this provider component is going to have access to this user. So let me show you what I mean. If I come to this grandchild, this is where we are using our user string. So what we have to do is we have to import the context, user context, and after importing user context, you import the use context hook from React, and then this is all we need to define our user, and then is equal to use context, and this use context receives a context, so we have to provide a user context. So now we have our user. because user is the only thing that we passed in this context. Now we have it accessible. If we go back to UI, you see it's working just fine as we had before. So this is actually what you use context to do. But you are not limited to passing only the strings here. You can pass whatever. So this could maybe be a state, maybe it could be a use state hook, maybe um, this maybe had to be a use state and it returns a state and then a setter function. Maybe let's say set user, and then you wanted to provide this as a state, you would maybe end up having an object here with user and then set user. So now here we have an object, so here I have to change. So this will be maybe would have to destructure from user, because this would be an object for in this case. And now you see that everything is working. So now maybe you might have, maybe let's put this on the separate line. uh, you might have maybe a button from here, and what you want this button to do maybe is to change user, and then you want, whenever you click this button, you want to change the user. So to access also the setter function, that you can do, maybe I can create a function, and this function might say, okay, you can also destructure set user from this context, and this function should call set user, then provide a new name. Maybe let's provide Victor, which is my name. So now here I have a button. If we click it, you see the name changes to Victor. And if we refresh, it turns back to the John Doe, which is the default one. And if we click here, it changes. So this is how we pass data through context. So this user and set user variables are accessible from this grand chat component without actually passing props. So this has been a use context hook in React. So if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching.